Not many anime these days can make me cry at the end of a 24 episode season where we see the exploits of brutal Vikings killing a lot, while also showing off their gluttony and whatever their versions of manners are. But yet, Vinland Saga did it. And in this video I want to talk about the last episode, maybe the last couple episodes really, of Vinland Saga, and how its ending was perfection. Of course, I am a little late to all this, but I am just coming back from a break, so I'm making videos on anime that I'm now just finishing up a month or so after they originally finished airing. So sorry for the wait, but I just wanted to sit down today and talk about Vinland Saga, at least one more time. More on that later, but for now, let's get into the video. Spoilers, of course, you have been warned. So, how about that last episode? Askeladd beheads King Sven in an act of feigned madness to save his beloved whales and as well not to compromise Prince Canute and his mission. It was the only option he had after all. He wasn't able to convince Sven to not conquer whales, and when Sven made him choose between whales and Canute, the lines were forcefully drawn. He knew there was no other option than the one that we saw play out, and this was a long time coming for Askeladd as well. You could see his arc coming to an end when pretty much every one of his men either turned against him or died. His attachment to this world was dying off, and it only made sense for Askeladd to perish in hindsight. Askeladd was a bastard, a man who lived for no one and with no law to tie him down. Truly a free man, never tamed. But oh boy, was he a treat to watch. To see his character develop, and I know I've already gushed enough about Askeladd as is, but his importance to the story cannot be understated. It's like never mentioning Griffith in a Berserk video or never mentioning Vegeta in a Dragon Ball video. And we see his impact on this story once Thorfinn makes his way into the fray and Askeladd tells him to stay away. There we see he's been stabbed by Canute himself, and for a moment, for one solitary moment, they had me fooled. Askeladd almost convinces us Canute's stab was weak with a "is that all you've got, kid?" sort of line, and well, he ends that line with, well, it was a good one. Such a beautiful moment, the way it led up, the way it played out, and the way it ended. It was just beautiful. And thanks to Askeladd's clothing he has over him, we aren't sure just the damage this attack caused, which added to this scene and the shock of it all. But nonetheless, it was a mortal wound to old Askeladd, and Thorfinn is in complete and utter shock at this happening. So as he falls, he catches Askeladd before he's able to hit the ground and questions him on why he got himself into this situation. Thorfinn knows Askeladd well enough at this point to know that this whole scene isn't like him at all. So as Thorfinn is yelling at him, Askeladd tells him to shut up, to let him rest, which signals, hey, this is for real. He's actually gonna die right now. And by this point, the waterworks were in full effect, my friends. I had the whole chin thing going on, my eyes were squinting and tears were rolling. It was hideous. But one of my favorite lines, really, I mean honestly, it's actually all of this, but you get the point, is he tells Thorfinn he'll give him his life, that he can kill him now, but he also says, we're enemies after all, right? Man, that is just packed full of so much meaning, so much emotion, and that one line reflects on practically the whole series. But the way he says it, questioning as if it's a matter of fact, made my mind race. Well, this is a theory, of course, and the theory will kind of evolve as we get into this conversation, but in my head I see many different ways that this could play out, but this is my favorite way. So in the episode, upon hearing this, Askeladd Thorfinn questions this and then asks, are you going to die? And his actions attacking Canute later on suggest that he's mad that he won't be able to kill him. But I think there's more to this. Thorfinn needs Askeladd like a son needs a father. For 11 years, he's been Askeladd's go-to guy to get in and do his dirty work. But there's just more to it, there always is. Thorfinn has essentially replaced Thor's with Askeladd and has created this twisted father-son relationship. I won't go too much into this part though. I talked about this in great length in my last Vinland Saga video for the 12 Days of Anime. So go check that out if you want to hear more of my thoughts on that specific theory I have. But establishing this is important, as Askeladd's next words are bombshells and will have an everlasting impact on Thorfinn's character. Mark my words. He tells Thorfinn to hurry up, to get it done quick because he doesn't have much time left, and how does Thorfinn reply? Well, how he's always replied. Are you making fool out of me, Askeladd? This is the final straw. And then he screeches like a pterodactyl. And for some reason, I'm attracted to Canute, ignore that last part. Screaming, he tells him he wasn't, this whole thing, he wasn't supposed to be like this. He was supposed to fill his dark soul with light. That's a Devil May Cry reference, you get it? Alright, I'll stop for now. And as well that he will never forgive Askeladd if he dies on him now, right before he was supposed to get his revenge. And Askeladd asks how Thorfinn plans to live his life. I took this as both a question to Thorfinn, but also himself, maybe more thinking out loud in a way. Askeladd has spent 11 years with him, and now that he's finally gone, he wonders how this little boy, now a teenager, will live without him. It's a question that Thorfinn himself hasn't asked, because maybe he just always expected Askeladd to be around, to always get back up, and to always be there for another duel. He then tells Thorfinn to move forward, and there is so much more to the world than this boring place, and that he's the son of Thor's after all. He should be able to do it and achieve even more than Thor's did. This isn't Thorfinn's place. He's destined for so much more, and Askeladd sees that in him and wants him to realize it now. And with his last words, he tells Thorfinn to become a true warrior, and then passes on. In my head, I believe that Thorfinn at this point has a couple of paths he can go down. He can blame all of this on Canute and continue the hatred and the anger he's felt for 11 years and essentially replace Askeladd for Canute and in turn, in his head, create a murderer of his father by proxy. And it would make sense too. For 11 years, he's wanted to end Askeladd's life, and everyone, even Canute, knows that Askeladd's life was to be taken by Thorfinn, making Canute's decision the ever more difficult in hindsight. One of the obvious paths is just for him to project everything Askeladd did onto Canute and then try to bring him down. With Thorkel being in play as well as Viking James Hetfield, it wouldn't be the greatest surprise. Another path for Thorfinn to head down is to simply reflect on what Askeladd said, because Askeladd was 100% right about Thorfinn. He's been tunneled vision on killing Askeladd to the point where even Leif Erikson brings up home Helga and Ylva. Thorfinn tells him to just not bring that up. So what better way than for Thorfinn to head back to Leif's ship and they go back home to Ylva and Helga? I personally would love to see him reunite with his family. I already love it when they reunited with Leif. And as well, I think their dynamic, Leif and Thorfinn together, are fantastic. But seeing Helga again too, as we all know her to be frail, and see how she's gotten along over the years and how much she likely misses her son. Plus, you have Ylva, who's especially charming, and her also being the daughter of Thor is just something that has made her incredibly strong, and also an expert on life, of course. In all honesty, it's something I hope happens regardless. I love Helga and Ylva. But not only was the show's ending perfect in writing and pacing, but also the last episode's animation was spectacular. As Thorfinn is dragged away from King Canute and Askeladd's lifeless body, he loses grasp of his father's dagger, something he's had since the very beginning of this show. As the dagger falls, we see in its reflection everything that has happened up until this point in the story. I think this also probably plays on Thorfinn letting go of his past and his childhood, and that his fight, at least for now, is over since Askeladd has died. This scene itself was just so powerful because the animation was basically at its climax here. These last two episodes has some of the best animation of the fall 2019 season and of the year 2019, not because it had amazing fights, but because, it's nuanced and it played perfectly to the story. Going back to Leif's talk with Thorfinn as an example, Leif's facial expressions are on point and so perfectly crafted that there is almost a sense of an uncanny valley, something I've never experienced before in an anime.
だが今でも昨日のように思い出すんじゃよ。
The way Leif expresses his grief, sadness, and regret over everything that's happened to Thorfinn, him being torn away from his family due to Askeladd, traveling with these brutal Vikings for 11 years with his only reason for living to essentially kill the man which killed his father, leading him down a cold, hard life of revenge. I think it was important we experience these scenes, especially through Leif, because he is one of our only remaining connections to the Thorfinn of old and his life before. This man obviously regrets everything that's happened to him and genuinely feels hurt for Thorfinn. You can see that Thorfinn himself is still hurting from losing Thor's all of these years later. And in a way, that's a crying shame and a tragedy for Thorfinn and his family. To be honest, there's so much more I could say, but I've said practically everything I can at this moment, without this video becoming a 60-minute video diving into everything I possibly could. And while I'd love to do that, that's simply not feasible for me right now, but I really just wanted to say that Vinland Saga Season 1 was spectacular, one of the best anime I'll probably ever see, and it left us with such an impactful ending that I won't forget for a long time to come. The series made me cry over the antagonist dying, for Christ's sake. It was awesome. And on top of that, it connected me with so many different kinds of characters and story. From the story of Anne and her whole village being murdered by Askeladd, Knut's eventual maturation into a king, Bjorn's death and Askeladd's fight and all that meant to him. And of course the fall of Thorfinn, which saw him go from an innocent boy to a brutal Viking and left him with nothing but hatred in his heart. But that's a good ending, no? We've wrapped up pretty much every character from this season, and now all of our focus can be on Thorfinn, with multiple avenues for his character to head down. We weren't told what they would be. We've been left to our imaginations to decide for ourselves what could be next for Thorfinn's journey. Will it be total self-destruction, or will it lead to Thorfinn becoming the man even Thor's wasn't able to become? Only time will tell, with the rumored Season 2 already on the way from Wit Studio. But there is still more to tackle yet, and hell, why not? Let's give this a 10 on Mal, which I usually never do on Mal anymore, so take that as you will. And if you enjoyed this video, then for sure help me out by dropping a like and commenting. This is sort of my first real video back, so I know for a fact that the writing wasn't as good as it could have been, but I plan to start working longer and harder on these videos in general, because I've moved to a 1 video a week schedule with extra videos coming out on a somewhat regular basis. Plus my second channel will have at least 1 video a week as well, so if you aren't subscribed to my second channel called Bento, then you can find that in the description to get some extra content. Actually, there was a whole live stream I did recently on this channel where I talked about all of the updates and changes I've made to the channel, so really, if you haven't, I'll link in the top comment with a timestamp to that section of the stream itself. So, with that being said, thanks everybody for watching, and make sure to like this video, subscribe, and ring the bell. Comment down below what are your thoughts on Vinland Saga and its ending. Was it perfect, or did you hate it? Did you love it? Is this your favorite anime of all time? Is this your most hated anime of all time? Please put down in the comments below. Also, as well have a Patreon where on the $1 tier above you get access to everything. So, thanks guys for watching. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.